How to open Mustang taillights. These are the amber turn signal Cobra taillights. These don't get modified very often, and in fact, we are actually not modifying them right now. What happens to these is that they get moisture on the inside, which causes the chrome to start break down, and it starts turning black. You can see all down here that everything is turning black. So if you're trying to open these lights, you're most likely doing a restoration to them, which we are actually doing to these. Now, to be honest with you, I have not opened a set of these yet, but doing some research on the internet and looking at how this lens has been installed, I can tell that we are going to have to bake the lights open. And that was wrong. Now, my first mistake there was trusting a 10-year-old forum post about these Cobra lights, but that's my job. I'm here to figure out how to open them and just show you what the process is. So these are plastic welded and you're going to need to cut them open. On the screen right now, you can probably see me fast forwarding through the entire process of how to open a baked taillight. If you actually want to see that process, there's plenty of other videos that we have on the channel that can show you that process. Right here, you can see the moment where I realized that we melted the lens. Well, I messed up. We melted it. Of course, in situations like this, whenever we melt something or break something, we always replace it. And this is when I realized just how expensive the amber version of the Mustang taillights are. Even though they're expensive, I went ahead and bought another set so that we could fix it. The lights came in, and what we ended up doing was sacrificing the lens that we had already warped, took that lens off, and got to the inner housing. Kind of like this, just cut everything off. Then we took the one good lens from the set that we already had and put it onto that other back housing, and then we took the other side of this, opened it, and refurbished it because it still had some of the black splotching, and was able to ship that. So the customer has one good set, which is great, and we are left with just one bad one and one open one. So what is the correct way to refurbish some Cobra taillights? And these are the tools that we're going to use, starting with the ultrasonic cutter. So this is going to be an extremely thin blade that vibrates and heats up, and we can get deep inside the taillight to cut just the lens and nothing else. Ultrasonic cutters range from like $300 to $600. So if you don't want to use an ultrasonic cutter, you can use a Dremel. So this is the Dremel that I have. I have this attachment because this piece right here gets extremely hot. So this helps to be able to hold it for a much longer time. And this is the blade that I typically use on the Dremel. It's one, well used, and two, this is the diamond bit. It's just pretty thin compared to all the other bits. All of that together is probably like $200 to $300 as opposed to the $300 to $600. It's a much better deal, and most people may have some sort of Dremel in their toolkit already. The only downside to the Dremel is that it's extremely messy. This does not create any dust or anything like that, so we prefer this. Next up is various flatheads. So the first thing I'll use is a pocket screwdriver. It's just extremely small and thin. You can really get into small spaces, and then just one bigger one will help. You'll use the pocket screwdriver to get in there, and then this will help you move along the plastic to pop it loose. Once you've taken the lens off, you're gonna need to put it back onto the new light. So we'll use shoe glue. I know it sounds weird, but the shoe glue is surprisingly a really good adhesive. Once it cures up, it has a pretty high temperature for it to heat up and get loose, but if you do have some sort of issue, you can heat the shoe glue up and remove it completely, and it doesn't leave anything behind once you heat it up to a certain point. This stuff does a little bit for keeping water out, but once we do shoe glue, we're also going to add silicone in there. The silicone is what's really gonna give it that waterproof property to it. This very expensive mistake was also a very expensive lesson. One, let's just not trust old forums anymore. They're gone for a reason. Two, the correct way to do this is going to be to cut off the back housing from this lens. You want to save this lens as best you can. You want to go ahead and cut off the back housing. It's going to have all the black splotches in there, which isn't great. This one actually in pretty decent condition. So you're gonna wanna cut off the back housing and then pick up a really cheap set of just regular red lens Mustang lights, and you can actually put that lens onto the Mustang light and then you have a really fresh set of Cobra lights now. Well, this was an expensive video, so we learned cut the lens off, don't bake it. If you need to do a refurbishment, just go ahead and pick up some of those cheap regular Mustang taillights and take this lens, cut it off, put it on the new one. It's gonna look way better.